Sophia. Michael's voice caught in his throat, a mix of guilt and fear tightening his chest. He struggled to meet her gaze, finding her transformed, resilient, formidable, a stark contrast to the broken woman they had left behind. Adriana, her nerves a tangle of defiance and dread, attempted to mask her unease with brazen rudeness. Well, Adriana sneered, her voice dripping with venom as she sized up Sophia. Look who's graced us with her presence again, all polished up. Where did you scrape together the cash for this makeover? Perhaps cozying up to some big shot, her smirk twisted into a cruel grin. And pray tell, Sophia dear, where are your little mistakes? Those fatherless, worthless kids of yours. Are they as much of a disgrace as the sorry excuse of a mother? Sophia's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing through Adriana like a dagger. She took a step closer, her designer heels clicking on the floor like a ticking time bomb. You think you can insult me, Adriana? Sophia's voice was low and menacing, each word dripping with venom. You think you can mock my children? Adriana's eyes widened, her face pale as a ghost. She tried to step back, but Sophia was too quick. With a swift motion, Sophia slapped Adriana across the face, the sound echoing through the restaurant, like a gunshot. Adriana's head jerked back, her eyes welling up with tears. Sophia's grip on Adriana's hair was like a vice, her fingers tangling in the strands like a snake wrapping around its prey. She yanked Adriana's head back, her eyes blazing with fury. Never, ever speak ill of my children again, Sophia hissed, her breath hot against Adriana's face. You will never breathe a word against them, or I swear on everything I hold dear, I will put a bullet straight through your skull. That would be the end of you. Adriana's eyes went wide with fear, her face contorted in agony. Sophia's grip on her hair tightened, the strands tangled around her fist like a vice. Adriana's scalp burned, the pain searing through her like a hot knife. Sophia's face was inches from Adriana's, their eyes locked in a fierce stare. You will never dare to speak ill of my children ever again, Sophia hissed, her breath hot against Adriana's face. I will end you, Adriana. I will make sure you never utter another word against them. Sophia's eyes blazed with contempt, her gaze piercing through Michael and Adriana. She leaned in a bit with a sly smile on her face. So, a little birdie told me you two got married, she spat, mockingly laughing as she held her belly. How quaint, how utterly pathetic. Adriana flinched, her eyes welling up with tears. Michael's jaw clenched, his face reddening with guilt. He took a step forward, his hands outstretched in a pleading gesture. Sophia's lips curled into a sneer. You two are a match made in heaven, aren't you? The spineless coward and the manipulative witch. She took a step closer, her eyes flashing with anger. Adriana's face contorted in pain, her body trembling. She clutched her Prada bag tightly, as if it were a lifeline. Sophia's gaze landed on the bag, and she let out a mocking laugh. That Prada bag you're carrying? It's fake, Sophia sneered, her voice dripping with disdain as she moved closer, grabbing the bag and tossing it away. Get yourself an original, Adriana. It's tacky just like you. Stop carrying fake things, like you're cheap. She paused, her eyes glinting with malice. Oh wait, I forgot. You are cheap, just like your taste in men. Her gaze raked over Adriana's body, her eyes lingering on the designer dress she was wearing. That dress is a knockoff, isn't it? You couldn't afford the real thing. Sophia's laughter was like a slap in the face, the sound echoing through the room. Adriana's tears spilled over, her body shaking with sobs. Michael's face twisted in anguish, his eyes locked on Sophia. Sophia's gaze never wavered, her eyes burning with intensity. She turned on her heel, her designer heels clicking on the floor like a death knell. As she walked away, she tossed a parting shot over her shoulder. Todos pueden ver que eres una farsante, Adriana. Todos menos Michael. Por supuesto. The silence that followed was deafening. The only sound was Adriana's ragged sobs and Michael's heavy breathing. Adriana collapsed into a chair, her body racked with uncontrollable sobs. Michael moved closer, his hands shaking with a mix of frustration and helplessness. Adriana, let me help you, he pleaded, his voice tight with desperation as he tried to get her up from the ground. Adriana's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with a ferocious mix of rage and humiliation. Don't you dare touch me, Michael, she shrieked, batting his hands away. You're a good-for-nothing husband. You just stood there and let her humiliate me. Michael's face contorted with his own turmoil, his fists clenching at his sides. What did you want me to do, Adriana? He barked, his voice cracking with emotion. Beat her up. She was right about you provoking her. You insulted her children. What did you expect? Adriana's eyes widened with a blend of shock and betrayal. You're defending her? She cried out, her voice raw and broken. After everything she's done to us? After everything she's done to us? Can you hear yourself? We caused Sophia pain. We made her the ruthless woman she is. We took everything away from her, Adriana, Michael echoed, his voice dripping with bitterness. What about what we did to her, Adriana? Do you think she forgot how we stole her inheritance and left her to die in the streets? Adriana's face twisted with a fresh wave of anguish, her tears falling like rain. I don't care, she screamed, the sound ripping through the silent restaurant. You should have stood up for me. Michael's eyes flashed with a cold, steely resolve. And do what? He retorted, his voice icy. Continue this endless cycle of revenge and hatred. No, Adriana, I'm done. I won't be a part of it anymore. Adriana's sobs turned into desperate, choking gasps. You're a coward, Michael, she whispered, her voice filled with venom. A spineless coward. Michael took a step back, his face pale and drawn. Maybe I am, he said softly, the sorrow in his eyes cutting deep. But I can't keep living like this. Not anymore. All of a sudden, Adriana started laughing. The sound piercing the silence of the restaurant like the cackle of an evil villain in a Disney movie. Her laughter was wild, unrestrained, and echoed off the walls, sending a shiver down Michael's spine. He looked at her, bewildered, his eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Give me one good reason why you're laughing maniacally, he demanded, his voice a mixture of frustration and fear. Adriana continued laughing, clutching her belly as she doubled over. Tears streamed down her cheeks. But they were no longer tears of sorrow. They were the twisted tears of someone who had crossed a line long ago and had no intention of looking back. I'm laughing because you think it's easy to back out now, she spat out between fits of laughter, her voice dripping with venom. You were part of it, Michael. You followed the plan, every step of it. You orchestrated that one-night stand with a stranger. You did this to her. Michael's face turned ashen, a sickening realization dawning on him. His mind raced, replaying the events that had led them to this moment. Adriana, that... He began, but his voice faltered, unable to find the words. to justify or explain away their actions. Don't even try to justify it. Adriana cut him off, her laughter subsiding into a cold, bitter chuckle. Now you think you can just back out? You think you can wash your hands clean of this? You're a fool, Michael. A big fool. Adriana's phone suddenly rang, breaking the tense silence that hung between her and Michael. She glanced down at the screen and saw her mother's name flashing. With a sigh, she answered the call, knowing that this interruption meant something important. Hello? Adriana spoke tersely into the phone. Adriana, I need you and Michael to come to my house immediately. Victoria's voice was urgent, cutting straight to the point. We need to talk. Sophia's back. Adriana's heart skipped a beat at the mention of Sophia's name. She exchanged a quick, apprehensive glance with Michael, who looked equally unsettled. We'll be there soon, Adriana replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Hurry, Victoria emphasized, before ending the call. Adriana pocketed her phone and turned to Michael, her expression grim. We need to go. My mother wants to talk about Sophia. Michael nodded, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. They both knew that Sophia's return could unravel everything they had tried to bury. Without another word, they left the restaurant, each step heavier than the last, as they headed towards Adriana's mother's house.